Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Laura. I work at the St. Louis Zoo. And I'm going to take some time today to talk to you guys about all the ways that spending time in nature can help you. And so I'm going to talk about fun things that we can do in nature. And some pictures that I have might also have some interesting information for our grown-ups that are watching with us too, about ways that playing in nature with you is helping you as you get older. So happy almost Earth Day to everybody, and thank you to Earth Day 365 for putting all these great virtual learning opportunities on for us. This is really exciting. We look forward to everybody being able to finally get together in October, but we hope that these give you lots of fun ideas of things to do outside before then and ways to connect to the natural world. So I think we're going to get started with a little video. Again, my name is Laura Sager, and but in the video, you'll see that you guys can just call me Miss Laura. So we're going to go ahead and check that out, and then talk about some other cool things we can do.
Welcome to my backyard, friends. I'm Miss Laura, and I wanted to talk to you about how you're feeling, because a lot of crazy stuff's been going on. School's not happening, your family might all be home, you might be feeling a little cooped up inside. So I wanted to share with you how I like to use nature and animals in the world around me to help feel better when things are kind of stressful like this. Some of the things that I like to do to feel better in spring is to take advantage of the puddles and the mud. I like to jump in the puddles and squish in the mud. Let's try it. Isn't that a fun sound? Another fun thing to do is to go on a spring scavenger hunt and look for all the signs of spring, like flowers. I love how bright yellow these are. Buds bursting, getting ready to turn into beautiful flowers. Bright green grass is another fun part of spring. You can feel it, you can listen to it. You don't have to just look for signs of spring, you can also listen for signs of spring. Now, we talked about how we're feeling, and I wanted to kind of talk about how sometimes it's like how animals feel. For example, if we peek into the lives of these guys, oh my goodness, look at all those worms and roly-polies too. They are all so happy, moving around. It's wet, just say they like it. But when their world gets turned upside down like this, I'm not sure they like it very much. I think it might be kind of stressful for them. So we want to do things to make us feel better. So I put our log back after we took a peek at our friends. So now it's dark and it'll stay wet underneath, just like they like it, just the way they feel safe. Another fun thing to do is if you have pets, spend time with them. Petting them can make us feel so much better. And I wanted to share with you something else, something that somebody who was very important to me when I was growing up said. Mr. Rogers, you might have heard of him. He once said that if we share what we're feeling, it can make things less scary, less overwhelming, and less upsetting. So let people know how you're feeling. That's what moms and dads and our friends and relatives are for, to help us when things are a little strange and a little scary. So thanks for visiting my backyard with me, and have a great day. Bye, friends.
Hello, everybody. So thanks for going on that little journey with me. It would be a lot more fun if we were all outside right now. So hopefully you'll get to do that later today because it's a beautiful day out. But I wanted to talk about some of the things that were happening when I was outside. Did you guys all hear some things? One of the things about going outside that's so nice is that we can use all of our senses. So when I was out there, you saw that I was looking at some pretty flowers. I smelled some flowers. I brought some lilacs in today because they're blooming now. And they smell really good. I love it. So hopefully you're out there enjoying those. And we can hear all that great stuff. So when you're out, are you hearing birds? What other animals can you hear? Could you hear any insects ever? Sometimes I hear insects. It's hard to know what they are though because they make some strange sounds. What about at night? Have you ever noticed anything talking at night? I have some ponds by my house, so sometimes at night I get to hear frogs and toads. Would you like to hear some silly sounds? Okay, I'm gonna make some sounds like some of the frogs and toads that live by us, and it's kind of silly because usually if somebody asks you what kind of sound a frog makes, what do you say? A lot of people say ribbit, right? But I've never met a frog that says ribbit. And I spend a lot of time looking for frogs. They're like some of my favorite animals. But sometimes I hear the ones that go, have you ever heard those? Those are called spring peepers, and they're the first ones to call. Sometimes we're still wearing our winter coats, and they're out in the woods calling to try and get a girlfriend. It's crazy. Then after that, sometimes you hear a lot of toads, and they're just making all kinds of sounds together. It's very loud. So lots of cool songs that we can hear at night. Or what about nighttime animals? Have you ever heard any nighttime animals? What about birds? What about an owl? Have you ever heard those? There's a lot of owls calling right now too. So that's another fun thing to do if you're going to be up late, to see if you can hear some of them. Other things when we're outside, we want to look, but we want to look really carefully. So I brought some things for us to look carefully at today so that we can look like scientists. Look at this. Look at all those interesting shapes. What do you think might have made that? Because this is something that I found outside here in nature. Yeah. What do you think? This is an insect egg case. So all those little holes had baby larvae, had larval insects in there before they hatched out and turned into their grown-up selves and flew away. But they have some very interesting designs. And that, if you didn't look close, you might just think it was a rock laying on the ground. So when we find fun stuff, we have to really look at it and see what the details are, see what we can notice. Oh, what about this? Have we ever seen one of these? Sometimes when turtles pass away, they leave their shells behind. And this is one that I found in the woods. And all the insects in the forest had cleaned it so it was nice and pretty. Look at all those ridges. What do you think they would feel like? Do you think this would be smooth or bumpy? What do you think? It's kind of a little of both. I see the tiny lines on it and the ridges. You can even hear it. All those tiny little bumps. On some of those scales, you can almost count them and tell how old a turtle is, but it's not exact. But this guy, he looked like he had a very long, happy life. So you never know what you're going to find outside. But the more closely you look, the more fun things you figure out. So what were our other ones? We smelled our lilacs. We looked closely at our turtle shell and our insect egg case. We heard the frogs and the birds. What else? We didn't taste anything. Do you think you can taste stuff outside? I mean, not like if you take your lunch outside, because then you could taste it. Well, actually, there are things in nature that are okay to eat only if a grown-up says it's okay. So this is something you have to do with a grown-up. But there are some things that we have right here in Missouri that you can actually taste, which is kind of cool. And one of them is blooming right now. You can actually taste the tiny buds on red buds. You can just pull one off if your grown-up says that it's okay and it's nice and clean, and you can taste it. It's an interesting flavor. Some people make jelly out of it like grapes. It's very silly, but it's just another fun way to explore nature. So we used all of our senses to do that. So what else can we do when we go outside? What do we think? Let's look at some other ideas of things to check out when we're outside. Oh, what about these guys? You have to look really closely to see some details here. But this is a pretty amazing thing. That's one of the fun things about being outside in nature is that you never know what you're gonna find. One day I just walked outside of my garage and there they were. All of these baby spiders. I know some people don't like spiders because they're afraid of them, and that's okay. But these guys are harmless. They are all called spiderlings. Isn't that silly? How could you not like something with a cute name like Spiderling? I wonder how many we have. Can you count how many spiderlings are in our picture? There's a lot to count, aren't there? I counted 18. That's a lot of babies. What's really crazy is that there's a whole lot more. But again, this is just one of the amazing things that you guys can find when you go out on your adventures. So you always want to keep looking. And one of the things we want to do is think about where we might find animals. Because we know where we find big animals. We can look up in the trees and we can see squirrels and we can see birds. But they're all pretty fast too, and they can fly away pretty fast. But when we look down in the ground, there's so many cool things to see. Under boards and rocks and logs, you can see worms and roly-polies like I found in the video. Sometimes slugs and snails, all kinds of things. But here's a helpful tip, guys. If you're ever gonna look under anything, you're gonna do it with a grown-up and you're gonna roll that thing back towards you. So in case there's an animal underneath it, it can get away if it needs to. And you're never gonna stick your hands under there until you see what's there. So you can see that my friend Christopher here has his hands behind the board in case anything was down there. But rocks and logs, even flower pots and mulch, great places to find new critters. One of the things that we want to do is look all the time. The more time we spend out in nature, the more it helps us. So going out once a week is fun, but if you can spend time outside every day, it's going to be even more exciting. This little friend of mine found a roly-poly and it was crawling on his jacket. Isn't that silly? You could spend time just finding roly-polies and making obstacle courses for them out of rocks and logs and pieces of grass to see where they go. Other things we might want to do is start learning how to take some riskier challenges in nature, like climbing trees. Also something good to do with a grown-up. But when you're learning how to climb a tree, you're learning all kinds of cool things. And it's even better if you have an expert tree climber who can help show you how to do it. You never want to go much higher than your own height when you first start out. That's always a safe bet. But it's a really good way to think like a scientist. Where do I have to put my foot in order for it to be safe? Have you ever tried climbing a tree? Was it fun? Was it scary? Sometimes climbing trees can be scary because you're getting up high, and that's okay. Not everybody wants to be a tree climber, but it's something fun to try if you never have. If you're anywhere that they have cedar trees, red cedar trees are great things to climb because they're almost like a ladder. They just help you go one step at a time. Here's another friend climbing a tree, and he is having his best life there. He is happy, happy, happy. Oh, these guys found a hidey hole underneath a bush. Have you ever spent time hiding in places in nature? There's lots of fun things you can do when you can go inside things. So growing really tall plants that you can get underneath or around, that can grow around you and make your own little cave is always fun. This is something you could try and do this summer with your own sunflower seeds. You can make a special sunflower circle with a little hole, and then you and your friends can go inside the sunflower castle. It's a pretty fun experiment. You could also do it with beans and all kinds of things. So that's another fun way to create a little hidey space that's just for you. Oh, one of the things I love to do is collect nature. And I have some of it with us. We looked at some of the sticks that I had with the plants. So I'm hoping that you guys can start bringing some of your nature inside too. So some of the things that my kids have collected over the years, lots of rocks. Rocks are so fun. You just have to make sure that where you're at is an okay place to take rocks because you can't take them from every place you're at. One of the things in Missouri that's super cool is that we have all kinds of fossils. So like really old animals that are even older than dinosaurs left behind a print in rocks. So you can look very up close and you can see where an ancient animal lived. That's an animal that's older than a dinosaur. That's pretty crazy. But yeah, lots to check out. Pine cones are also very fun and they come in so many shapes and sizes. When you have all these different nature things that you start collecting, you can do all kinds of cool things with them. You can sort them into different sizes or colors. You can measure them. You can draw them. You can make your own museum. My kids once turned a dollhouse into a museum. It was pretty funny. But also just simple jars that you guys might have spaghetti sauce in or something that you eat at home. You can save them. And I just spray painted the lids to make them look a little more fun. This is lots of snail shells. Have you ever found snail shells? Now, you never want to take a snail shell when it has a snail in it. But sometimes after somebody has eaten the snail, or if the snail has passed away, then it's okay to keep the shell. And you can measure them, you can sort them in bigger and bigger. You can even make art out of them by making designs. If you ever go to the beach, seashells are very fun. And of course, rocks, so many rocks. River stones that are smooth, big chunky pieces of quartz that are hard and bumpy. And what about this? This is not from around here. This is a seed pod. You hear that? There's a seed inside this. So a lot of seed pods are also cool to save one of because plants make so many. Like I have a maple tree right now and there are so many helicopters about to fall out of that tree that it would be okay if we collected one or two of them. Now, when seeds are wet, you have to make sure you dry them out first because if you just put them into your jars, they'll get mold, which is kind of cool because you grow something, but it doesn't make your seeds stay very long. So before you put anything in your collections, you want to make sure that it's nice and dry and hard. Same with sweet gumballs and other seed pods too. You want to make sure you have all of that. Let's see what other things we could do with natural materials and things we find outside. Yeah, you can see there's shells, acorns, so many cool things you can do with acorns, right? Also, you can bring nature inside too and look up close and personal. We talked about noticing details. Magnifying glasses are very cool to help us notice the details. And they're a scientific tool. So you're starting to learn your science process skills. So we're learning about what things look like up close and what kind of tools help us to be better scientists. Wait a second. Are you a scientist? What do you think? You know what? You are a scientist. I know a lot of times we think about scientists as being people with lab coats, but you guys are scientists. You're making observations. You're noticing things that happen. That's what scientists do. And you know what else? Sometimes scientists make mistakes, and that's okay too. So one of my friends here has brought a worm from outside inside, but he made sure that that worm has all the things he needs to survive. So he has some very moist paper towels there. So he's able to see the worm, but the worm could still hide underneath in the dark if he wants, and the worm gets to stay wet. So bringing plants and animals inside for a little while is okay sometimes, as long as you have permission to take them. But if they're from your backyard, you can certainly do that if the weather's not great outside and be able to spend some time observing them. Also, slugs and snails are so much fun to observe. How long it takes for a slug or snail to get from one place to another. Oh, so we have some other exploring here. Have you guys ever explored on vines or walked across a creek on rocks? These are really fun things to do. And after you do them, do you feel a little more brave? Like, wow, I really accomplished something. It's a pretty cool feeling, isn't it? And nature can give us that feeling all the time because we can be learning stuff every time we're outside. Even me. I've been spending time outside for a long time and I still learn new things and I'm excited about it every time. So I hope that you guys will keep being excited when you're doing new things in nature. Having tools to look close up that you can actually have an insect inside are pretty cool too. So these are two different kinds of magnifiers that are fun to have at home that you can both find online. So this way you can look up close at different things like tadpoles or insects or even just sticks and leaves. It's just another special tool that helps you be a scientist. Gardening is another way that can help us outside. Helping to make things grow gives us a sense of accomplishment. It's so exciting to see something that you planted get bigger. And if it's a vegetable or a fruit that you actually get to eat it, yeah, gardening is another great way to spend time outside with our families. Now, here's an idea. Have you ever written poetry about being outside? I want you to think of a special place that you like outside. My friends in this picture love this willow tree. And so they told us all about the willow tree. And we wrote it together, we wrote it down, and it became a poem called The Willow Tree Clubhouse. branches like vines with leaves, hanging down to the grass, tickling me with its leaves. Shh, branches rub together. Ch-ch-ch, warm, happy, cozy willow tree. So think about a spot that you have or something in nature that you've seen that you really enjoyed and thought, this is a very special experience. Because that is how you can write a really amazing poem. And you don't even have to do it by yourself. Sometimes you could do it as a family, and every line is written by somebody else. It's pretty fun. You could do it about inside stuff too, but it's not as cool. Now, another thing that I like to do outside is I like to take a notebook with me and write down things that I see or draw pictures of things. It's a great way to find out what's going on around us. And it's also another way to confirm our observations. Scientists have to document their work. They need to write down what they see because they want to share it with others. So you can see in this picture that some of my friends made the drawings, but the grown-ups helped write the words for them. They didn't guess what the words were. They made sure to ask our friends what the words were because we want to make sure that we know exactly what you're thinking. Do you notice anything about this picture? I see some rain boots. It's wet, so it looks like somebody's out playing in the rain. And what about the leaves? They're kind of interesting, aren't they? I noticed that it seems like the leaves are almost a rainbow. Some of my friends did that all on their own one day. They just made a leaf rainbow. Another magical thing that can happen when you're spending time in nature, because nature provides all the art materials you need, which is pretty fun. Oh, I have a question for you. Have you guys ever been outside and seen trash somewhere? I have that happen sometimes. I'll see a piece of trash on the ground and it makes me sad. What do you do when you see a piece of trash out in nature? Do you tell a grown-up about it and ask if it's okay to pick it up? Because that's a really good way to help. So we want to make sure that we're doing whatever we can to help nature too. Sometimes we can help nature by just being in nature and playing with our friends. We might not be able to play with our friends right now, but we could play with our grown-ups that we live with, and maybe if we have brothers or sisters, we can play with them. And sometimes when we're outside, we actually are ready to spend even more time doing something than if we're inside, which is pretty crazy. And the more time we spend outside trying things on our own, like these kiddos who are looking for worms and roly polies by themselves, the more confident we get. These guys felt really excited that they discovered some things on their own. So sometimes after grown-ups show us how to do things, it's really great if we get to try them too. And sometimes when it's Earth Day and even every other day, we do want to think about how we can help the earth and help others, like picking up litter or making a bird feeder. And it's really cool to the grown-ups out there to let our little friends help tell us how they'd like to do that. They might need help with ideas, but they might have some of their own. And the more they get to decide and have input, the more meaningful and powerful that experience will be for them too. So being outside has many benefits. It helps us get along with other people, and it helps us connect to the ones that we love. So I hope that you have lots of ideas of ways that you can spend time in nature and that you guys will try some of these on your own and that you have a very happy Earth Day. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.